Okay. Once again, for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the April 16th meeting of the Lower Southward Communication Committee. First order of business is the approval of last month's minutes. Thank you, Jess. Everything. Everybody got a chance to review these. The email, any questions, comments, concerns about the minutes from April 16th? None for me. Okay, motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah. I'll need a vote on that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Let's see, public discussion, visitor comments. Yeah. Still one visitor. I guess we're gonna find out soon whether we're at the point of being able to have associate members, but any comments from the public? And I don't think we have anybody online, right? No. Okay. All right, moving on. I did see as of last month, we were still pending approval from the Board of Supervisors for the associate members. I imagine, does anyone here know, or are we still dependent on Kevin for that?
I have not.
Okay. All right, so as far as we know, that's still not approved, but we need Kevin's input on that. Any other comments on the agenda item 4A? Okay. 4B, distribution of volume 3 of the Township Quick Reference Guide. I got the impression from the notes that was reviewed again last meeting, and are we good on that?
The newest version that was sent to all of your emails is the yellowish one, so there were minor changes, including adding a digital copy, QR code, making whatever changes necessary to the contact information, and just kind of giving it a new look. And this version's on the website currently as well.
So the only thing we need to maybe look at is the reference to BSA with Scouts. I didn't bring the printed out email that I had when I contacted them, but they're no longer referencing themselves as Boy Scouts of America.
That's just Scouts.
Just Scouts.
Yeah.
Scouts USA. Let's not hold things up while I look it up, but I'll find that communication and get you the correct wording by the end of this meeting.
Given that, should it be Scouts USA Troop 137 or Troop 91?
Maybe just Scout.
We would keep Scouts USA.
Oh, no.
Scouts USA Troop 137 or Troop 91.
I think that would be Scouting America.
Scouting America.
Scouting America.
Is it Scouts of America or Scout?
It's
Scouting.
Scouting America. Yeah.
Scouting.
Scouting.
37. Scouting America, Troop 137 or Troop 91.
Yeah, I have it now, just to reconfirm, Scouting, BSA officially rebranded as Scouting America. Scouting America as of February 1st. So, I think otherwise, everything you said is fine, Scouting America, Troop 137, and Troop and 90. Probably that's to represent.
Is it true 137 or is it and?
I think you would contact one that,
Like,
I contacted both,
I just mean if you were
Yeah,
looking,
or 10.
and it's.
I think you could.
and.
Sites with there.
I found a typo, under Gap, this last line, Harleysville, the Y is not there.
That's right. That's in their web address. I believe, I
Are you
believe,
serious?
yeah, I kind of remember when you said, will you look at that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that right
But I'm
now.
pretty sure, I kind of remember when I wrote it in that I thought it was a mistake.
What I'll say is, if that's there, I
Yeah,
went off of that read.
Yeah, like I think when I wrote it in a PDF, I'm pretty sure I was like, this is spelled wrong, but then I clicked on it.
What are we looking
the second line.
True 91's web
Lines. There's no line.
Yeah, there is no,
Oh,
there's no R on there.
there's no bar here.
Yeah, so on, I'm looking at it, it says true, TrueWebhost.org/, True 91. Oh, no, actually, Harleysville, it's there,
What is
The
it?
Y is there,
Y is there,
so it's spelled correctly.
yeah, it is spelled correctly.
No.
There's-
For some reason I-
Maybe the other
Yeah, maybe they
the
fixed it.
text is correct. but the
Okay.
text
Somebody's
is not.
looking for their attention.
It could be.
Could be that as well.
No, that was a ghost town.
Yes, I would digitally. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Second correction is. The
I'm gonna make sure
Troop
it's not
91 URL.
You know, the H in Harleysville is capitalized too in the web thing,
Yeah, it is,
so I would capitalize that.
and so is the I in index.
I mean, those don't really matter.
They matter sometimes.
Yeah.
Not a correction, but a question, because. Since it jumped out, do we still have to state that the Encore Experiences is formerly the senior center? How long since it's been the senior center?
You think
Is the
people,
question?
how long has Encore experiences been called that?
Do we still have to state that Encore Experiences formerly the senior center?
Encore Experiences has probably been called Encore Experiences for a very long time. It's actually not even Encore Experiences anymore. It's Greater Harleysville North Penn Senior Center. It's like a really, really, really long. They combined efforts with one of the senior centers in Lansdale, I believe. And it became Greater Penn,
yeah.
Greater Harleysville, yeah.
The web address is ghnpss.org/
And that would be
Encore
it.
experience.
Yeah.
Wait, should the web address is.
I bet that's right.
It's the abbreviation.
No, see, the GHNPSS is Greater Harleysville North Penn Senior Services.org / Encore _experience.
So that open a can.
So whatever you want to call it, yeah.
It does the Encore experiences in front. affiliated with GHN.
Yes,
What it says,
you could probably remove formally the senior center.
yeah.
Probably remove that.
The third correction, remove formally the seniors.
Although if you're a new resident, like you would be
Yeah.
clueless.
Right.
You just write.
I was just having that same thought.
Yeah,
Senior
if you're a new
center.
resident, you wouldn't know that that's the senior center.
Well, in that case, that would, yeah. you said-
Maybe you should just instead of say formally, just
Yeah.
the senior
Senior
center. Maybe just remove formally.
So it works for everybody.
Yeah, they do.
I had a question about that, if you don't mind. So when you upload something, a replacement to this file, will it always have that 2209 in the media 2209 quick reference guide,
I would need to scan it. Which,
the
QR
top
code?
one? Because that tends to, some number, and I don't know whether it's always 2209 or something else, gets attached to every upload, including media for minutes and agendas and stuff like that.
When you scan it, do you get the old version or the new version? I get the old one.
I do,
Scan away.
I get the old one.
I have a version too.
You have the older one?
Yeah,
Which one?
The old one is the blue one. That's
Yeah.
what I'm-
Yes.
The top.
This one?
This is the one that.
Oh, I don't have that. Which one is it? That's okay.
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
then I will make a change that.
So it's possible that when you upload another file with the same name, it might get a different number.
Would
I
that-
just get this. Well, I get the original one,
Yeah, you get the old, you gotta
because
see.
you haven't uploaded this yet, have you?
I was thinking that I had,
Oh, okay.
but
Might not have.
the one online. it may be different. I think it's correctly on the website, this scan just isn't
Look at the website.
properly linked. So
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the new version
okay,
on the website, so
so just the printed copy needs to be changed.
the QR code needs to be.
Right.
But I think. Your point was that it should always be the same.
Yeah, the new one comes up on the website.
So like, it should always take you to the same. place.
This would just need a new QR code.
So
Even if we update it.
right, so I will link it to this QR code, I'll link it to the page, not to the document. Right,
I think that's- Yeah.
You don't change the QR code, you want to use what the one site.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when you put in a new file, so just so you know, the first one, the quick reference guide.pdf, the version 2 is media/2209/,
yeah,
and then the new one has like a completely different number, 2591, which I think the website probably makes up
right,
to prevent duplicates.
Right.
Yeah, so if you just take them to this page, I think that's fine. And then the links right at the top.
So it doesn't look like that link your community on the bottom works anymore.
Alright, so just to close out that
Oh,
conversation,
sorry.
we're not changing the QR code.
We are.
I will just have to change it to land to the website page rather than the document itself. And I will. That
Yeah, I have written those. Change.
so the additional contacts and links, which is the last.
I think it's just slash community.
Yeah, it is different. So I will change that.
Alright, so I have 5 changes, right? First change is, Scouting VSA becomes Scouting America, Troop 137 or Troop 91. Second change is, correcting the Troop 91 URL to the Harleysville spelled correctly. Third change is we're changing formally the senior center to just senior center. Right?
Yep.
Word change is the QR code, changing the top right QR code to land on whatever page it needs to land on. And the fifth change is the additional contacts and links URL to the fire URL.
Yeah, it's like community slash contact dash directories. I just forwarded it. Emailed it to myself when I was reviewing those and maybe I didn't make it actual.
Well, thank you.
Community dash contacts dash line. Good.
That's 2 others.
Okay, there you go.
So in clicking through, I think it's possible to get rid of the home and the index that HTML off of the Scout
Oh, yeah.
links. They work fine without it. Less to type. And I noticed that Freedom Valley Medical Rescue is in blue, when the rest of them are all in red. That doesn't make real big difference, but it's there.
Correction 6 is the HTTPS backslash author 3137.
I think it's the index.html.
And this slash, right?
Oh, right, the, anything after Harleysville and the first students.
Does it resolve if you put in just links.google and www.truewebpost?
No,
No, it doesn't.
you gotta do something resolves, but gotta do Troop 137 Harleysville, PA, and everything after PA, everything after Troop 91 Harleysville get cut.
Yeah, my question was, does it resolve with that HTTPS?
They all do,
Oh.
right? It's, these are the only two that have
Yeah.
Right.
any
which
kind
is-
of prefix on them, and that's,
weird.
I mean, every browser in the universe these days is gonna do the right
So
thing.
let's take them off, like I said,
Yeah.
every, we don't have it on every other.
Is there www in front of sites?
No,
No.
Just sites dot, okay.
Well, I will make sure they all work before I put them in there.
So then, what I didn't stop was you're saying you're going to index that. Scan.
I believe that's what Mr. Carlson was saying.
First scout URL is going to be sites.google.com/view/troop 137 Carlisville, PA /home. Second URL is going to be www.troopzcoast.org/troop91 Harleysville /no. Alright.
Not everyone.
Yeah, good, good.
what's the final destination for the QR code on the top?
It'll be the quick reference page.
Is that an article or a page?
There's a, it's under news.
Thunder News has a place for people to see it, but it's also under community.
Then, and once, and twice. Right, so I guess we'll wait till next month. To do a final
distribution.
version of that. Okay, new business. Revisit the communication committee's core purpose for the ordinance. Last month and got pushed to this month.
Yeah, yes, correct. We went, well, I had emailed Kevin. Separately, that he had a copy.
Anyone have,
The resolution.
2029?
Maybe go make copies of it?
This might be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Purpose. Okay, so stated purpose of the communication committee shall be as follows: explore and enact the most effective way of facilitating communications and activities between the township and its residents. B, assist the board of supervisors and township departments, committees, or boards to ensure efficient communications with the public. C, be responsible for supporting the township to inform the community about its upcoming meetings, township-run community events, department announcements, and to the extent possible, public events serving the township. Serving the township run by nonprofit local organizations. No. And do that again. So this is C, 2C. Be responsible for supporting the township to inform the community about its upcoming meetings. Township meetings. Township run community events. Department announcements. The township department announcements. And to the extent possible, public events serving the township run by nonprofit local organizations. So that's interesting, because I don't think in any of our conversations or, what we're gonna do, we've ever talked about serving non-public, nonprofit local organizations and what we can do to assist in their communications to residents. I think the other ones we kind of touched on in conversations, but that one I don't think we've ever discussed. Okay, so interesting point there. Then D, deliver timely, accurate, and complete information regarding the township's policies, programs, services, and initiatives to residents and business owners. But I think at times we touch on that, for instance, talking about video clips of different departments or getting speakers from different groups or things like that. So I think we kind of touched on some of that, but maybe not fully. So again, D is deliver timely, accurate, and complete information regarding the township's policies, programs, services, and initiatives. Residents and business owners.
Yeah, the rest are just not membership. I feel like two things stuck out to me that I don't feel like we do, but like I know it's done in other towns with like events and like you said, the non-profit, like. We've talked about communicating like resources, but never really specifically around events. And then on 2D about like. Never mind that.
When we send out the bi-weekly newsletters, there are organizations who reach out. Mostly the Heckler Plains Folklife Historical Society and the Mennonite Heritage Center, who we do publish some of their events. And in good news, the township won a communication award, from, PSATS, which is, I don't remember what it stands for. It's the state of Pennsylvania and all the municipalities in it, for those bi-weekly newsletters. So it's good information that gets on there. I think the quote unquote issue, so to speak, is getting more people to know about the channels. So, this is good information to have, so, yeah.
And not only getting the residents to know about the channels and taking advantage of the channel, but getting groups like this to know about the channels and that we can possibly help them get exposure for their groups through those channels. And so maybe something we should think about is some kind of reach out to those types of organizations to let them know the communication channels that are available. Going back to our list of communication channels that are available to the township. And letting these nonprofits know of those channels that potentially. Qualifies it to the extent possible.
But when we collect, posters after like the voting season, we have like, people can drop them off, recycle.
Blood drives.
Where you have like other recycling
drives,
events, I know.
all that
you
kind of
do
stuff.
Electronic.
Yeah, we also collect and recycle campaign signs, that's through the county. There's all kinds of things we do all year long, so I think that would be an initiative.
Do like a chart of everything that's in, just went through, and how we're addressing it, how it's being addressed. It would just kind of be like a more organized way of doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like under D, would be, okay, initiatives, this is how we're communicating.
Or how not.
Yeah, or not, right, it will be clear then what we need to address.
That and then you think that, in our list of potential topics. We actually have a column that it's called, this topic may pertain to these kinds of things, right? Nonprofits, initiatives, or, whatever it's saying. But, yeah.
I just think it'll make what we're doing a little bit easier, so we can see clearly what we need to address then.
Yeah, very, very good. Welcome. So, stated purpose. It's like 2C and 2B. The next topic in terms of future topic projects. Any other questions, comments in terms of the resolution or our purpose?
Copy of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
5B. Future topics and projects.
And these came out of a survey that was conducted, right?
Yeah, this was wild, a lot of it was cohorts.
Before the survey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like a mix, it's a mix, yeah.
It was like a lot of brainstorming.
From the previous one. So. Things worked with these once or twice before, and I believe that they were fairly recently re-ranked based on prior conversations and meetings. So I'm inclined to say, you know, that we focus on the current ranking, that unless someone has something that's not ranked, something, you know, items 10 through 17, that is not ranked, that we ought to be brought forward. We assume that the ranking is fairly recent when we look at it. Of the top 9 items that were ranked, what did we take on next, or what couple did we take on? And if it's truly, you know, the top 3, you know, start talking about what does that mean, and what are the action items, et cetera. But, you know, we kind of get past the review and start looking at. So let me break that down. Is there anything in 10 through 17 that anyone would want to be re-ranked into the top 10?
One thing, I mean. I think it would be hard to do this. But number 10, which. Terry, it's like you brought up, and Mr. Carlson also brought that up at our last meeting, how can we actually find out what our lives are like? How we're reaching it, working.
I actually did, okay, and I didn't bring information here, through Google Analytics, I can find out how many people are using the website, who's going to what pages, since January is around when the website launched. We've had about 2,000 different users in total on the whole website. They all come back multiple times typically. The top pages being the homepage, the building and zoning page, and the police page and the permits pages. The new resident guide has seen, I think it was around 100 users total, and they've come back, said around 1.5 times each, so some come back, some don't come. So it's being seen, and in comparison to how many new residents there probably are, that's probably a pretty good number, I would think,
So,
in 4 months.
Over what period of time?
It's only, I would say, just look at it from the first of this year, because we launched maybe mid-December realistically. So,
Sure, because we should be relatively simple and cross-reference how many new residents there are during that time. See what the relative contribution.
okay, so let's not get too deep into it, but that gives us an even top 10. So recommendation, do we add it to the bottom of the list, or is it you know, higher? Compared to the top of the list, because we don't understand whether we're having an impact or not, does any of the rest of it matter?
I personally think that's, higher. But also, shouldn't we also, what we talked about earlier in, for purpose, shouldn't that be like number 1 that we're doing? Identify if we're addressing it for purpose of the ordinance.
I didn't see that as a separate topic, but something that we consider in each topic. Are you saying to tie that into here, and that potentially changes our ranking?
Yes.
So I'm starting to have a strong feeling on 10 in the following regard. I mean, the reason why I was asking about the timeframe is that if you do it, if you start to do that after you start making a lot of changes, you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So I think we probably need to move that up to get some sort of baseline for where we are. Because if you look at a lot of these other ones, they would certainly impact how the message is getting out, and maybe theoretically should be increasing engagement, which should then be reflected in the analytics side. So I think I'm starting to have a strong feeling that should be some effort to kind of get a baseline.
So is the baseline racist information then, or we could use that as a baseline? Before we did a survey. And we used that, but that's, a lot of it was like subjective too. So we have more objective measures, we should give that route.
I mean, it at least speaks to the digital channel. There might be other things like consider things, say just take this, measuring the impact. I think. Yeah, maybe we're getting a little in the weeds. There's like how each of the channels are achieving engagement. We've got metrics for digital. We might have this other survey from when we did it. So that serves as a baseline too. But I think all of this is kind of tiptoeing around 10, maybe not necessarily 10. Yeah, but that means it's not one. I don't know, right?
The question is where does it get from? Does it get pushed all the way to the top of the list? Or
You're talking to an analytics guy, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question.
I'll ask you everything. Somebody ask me everything.
I like the idea of knowing where it's standing.
If I could.
Carlson.
So it seems like something like a metric or a measure of success or a measure of completion should go along with all of these, not necessarily a topic, but the objectives. Like if there's an objective, it should be, how do we measure what the improvement is over baseline, and how do we measure when it's done?
Yeah.
Right? I can't speak to some of your previous things. So like number 14, for example, it seems like that's the Instagram and Facebook. It seems like that was accomplished, they're being used fairly well. Is it enough to say that it's incorporated into the township's regular operations of communication, or is there something more to it? Like every post ought to be something that 10 people reply to. And when do you say, okay, we put a bow on it, and now we can move on to other things that aren't, this list gets shorter and people see progress.
So. Number one, it is number 14, right? So now where our focus is right now.
No, for sure,
Put it as an example.
as an example.
And maybe it should be reworded to brainstorm new uses.
But I think the metrics and the measure of success put a fine point on the pencil, right? It says, yes, you need to investigate this, but if you've accomplished X and Y, then you can feel good about yourself, and 14 gets scratched off and 15 bumps up.
Yes, I think that becomes a more specific topic, right? And that more specific topic, you have clear endpoints, and you're right, it gets scratched off, just as, you scratched off the numbers of things.
Which I haven't seen, right? So I can't speak to it.
Right.
So number 10 is define how to measure the impact of the communications committee. So we're really talking about how we're going to measure. So to me, that's a whole different topic of conversation, which may take various forms. So maybe that should be number 1, to define how we're going to measure.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe as we choose topics on here, as we do it, we define the. So
Okay,
keep it in mind.
so we seem to be at a
Yep.
consensus that we go to the top.
It does, but it's not the purpose of the meeting.
So then, with that as theoretically the number one topic next month, and discussion starts with that. As a second or tertiary topic, are we okay with what's currently on the page as rank 1 and 2? So define communications committee break on a communications committee brainstorming session. Looks like it's defined a communications committee brainstorming session. So a specific session. Promoting residents' participation in an open discussion. So the objective there was do something to get at least one meeting with more seats filled than one.
I still think it should be talking about the resolution and how the clock, that should be then number 2. And only because I feel I'm trying to fit as we're heading into a round hole here. We developed this list a long time ago, it may not be appropriate anymore. But if we're going back and looking at what our mission is here, then we really should look at it.
Yeah.
So the way I would phrase that, the way I was saying that is if we apply the purpose of the committee to this item, right, promoting a brainstorming session in order to get input, how does that fit with our purpose? And I'm just brainstorming here,
Yeah.
but given that tie, I would say that in defining how we promote a brainstorming session, we would want to make sure that we got to all of those different groups, that somehow we try to get representation from the nonprofits, from the departments, from the whatever, to be part of that. And that's how I would tie our purpose into that statement. If we can't, we don't think we can, then it's that objective, that topic is less important than it's.
Yeah, and I guess, like, is our goal, so like number 1, number 3, and number 4. All kind of center around publicizing the communications committee. And like, before we even do that, we have to figure out how people find out about it. I get like, is a little bit of my hold up with those three. Because I think that's important for people to know about it, but like, is that our goal? I don't know if we're behind the scenes. Or if we want people to. I don't know, I'm just questioning.
I agree with you, I think it calls for a bigger discussion. And I'm gonna say, I think we need to go back to what we discussed earlier. I mean, that should be our guiding light there, right? So at this point, I think we need to relook at this whole list anyway.
Okay. So,
Because we originally did this list without looking at what we did today.
so just kind of piloting that thought or trying that thought out. If we revisit the first item with now understanding of purpose, what changes or what do you take out of that? I mean, how does what we're thinking kind of go? Using number 1, it's just.
I mean, I think that relates to like under purpose 2A, explore and enact effective way of facilitating communications and ideas between the township and its residents. Right? But, because we need feedback.
Yeah, and my thought was, we need feedback from all of those groups. I think, we tend to just focus on the residents specifically, and to some degree the businesses. We've always had discussions about those two populations, but not some of these other ones. But maybe some degree the departments also talk about, how to engage, but there's having a clear picture of our purpose. Bring that to the conversation. And so like, just brainstorming there, but what that does for me, the conversation we had earlier today, what that does for me is change how I look at item one. And assuming that item one is still a priority, what it means is, okay, when I look at that and I think about how we get a brainstorming session, right? We make sure we include or try and include all those groups, not just residents, not just businesses, but how do we get a nonprofit representation? How do we get whatever else is there, departments, people that are involved in initiatives, Red Cross or some of the other things. And if we don't think we can, when we had that discussion, and ultimately we were like, what, these people aren't going to come. Then, what did that tell us?
Yeah.
There are a better example. I'm trying to understand how you want to apply.
I'm not saying you shouldn't do number one, I just don't think it should be number one.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah.
I think we need to go back to the beginning. And then develop a new list or just modify this list somehow. But I don't think we can do that now until we really talk about what we're lacking in too. But we're not doing, when we look at the purpose and all the different, things that go under it. What are we doing well? What can we do better? What are we not doing at all?
Yeah, and then focus on.
And then focus on that, and that should be the priorities.
So my one thought is that at this point, we're not doing anything. Kind of, we're in this wall, and so we're looking at what we're going to do.
Right.
It's not so much what we did or what we're doing, it's what we're going to do.
Correct.
And how that applies to our purpose.
Right. Right.
And so how do these topics or new ones, if there's something that's not on this list at all, that you think somehow fulfills or touches on those purposes better than anything on here. It's a high priority item. So do we walk through these and give it a grade based on how close or how much it supports our purpose? And it's, maybe it's just a high, medium, low kind of designation, but if we started with the first one, we said that we want to have a brainstorming session, and we want to include representation from all these groups, and we want to do a brainstorming session specific to understand how well these various communication channels are working. We have a list, I don't know, 10, 15 communication channels. And you have a room full of people say, okay, how many people even know about these communication channels? But if you wanted to structure that kind of brainstorming session, does that fit our purpose highly or low? you do that for each one of these. And then to your point, then look at, okay, what hits our purpose higher than others, and those should be the ones that go with that.
like a whole meeting on just one area. Okay, and I think we're trying to do, I don't know, I just really need to go and look at the purpose. And before we even do this, I think we're doing the part before the worst right now, like. So I just really wanna like study what we need to do, what we're doing now. I think that probably should be the first thing, like. Before we do any of this.
Okay. So. Does that change? The fact that we want to look at measuring,
So.
so the topic for next month is. Talking about measuring. And potentially, and potentially we break that down to by channel, right? And how do we see, you know, measure our impact by channel? Because it's a digital may be much different than measuring the impact of this being posted.
There may be some binary things in there too. Mr. Paulson brought up, there might have been a point in time where there was not Facebook experiment, right? But now there is, and so maybe, you know, we've satisfied some of this as well. So-
Actually, from the survey we did way back, that was one recommendation that we had for social media presence. That was one of the things that we.
Okay, so that's number one topic, right? Number two topic is, so everyone has some homework to look at our purpose and look at the list of backlog items, right? And is the second, as I said, and one of the suggestions here is, but do we want to grade each of the backlog items based on how it fits with our stated purpose? So,
I'm very aligned with doing that. The question I have is the core mission elements that we have, those are set, so there's no more conversation on them. I don't want there to be, it's a question, yes or no. That's, we could definitely use that as the reference.
I think that.
I think it would be good to at least start with that, and then like, if we come to a point, oh, we did everything. Maybe you expand it.
Then,
Yeah, I have to think that the township is open, if we came up with something that's not a stated purpose, but we thought it was a great way to communicate with the residents. I think we'd be remiss if we don't.
Fair enough.
Right, yeah.
Recommendation.
and the reason why I ask is then we don't need to review the core mission, we would just start with what we have. That's the reason why I'm asking.
Yes,
So then I have a line that I think that is what we should do. So we should have that as a topic, is to judge, assess needs versus the mission, see how that bubbles things up or down.
Yeah, I agree.
and I know you're saying mission, but just to be consistent, I think it's stated as the purpose. Purpose.
Just trying to find the words that
Yeah, for sure.
So. Second topic next month then is to come back with input in terms of how you would kind of grade these potential topics as how they tie into our purpose.
Yes, one thing. I did notice in going over this that there aren't any items specifically for purpose to be on the backlog list. There's nothing specifically aimed at facilitating the communication for other departments, right? So to actually subdivide those and to say, this list has everything, but it doesn't have anything for B, then you say, well, even if that's not maybe the top thing on the list, you certainly don't want to leave it out as part of that. So that's part of the evaluation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in my mind, it was, number 12. Because I think it doesn't state it there, you're right, but I think the information videos we were discussing were information clips about the different departments. And making that connection between the departments and the residents via the little video clips. Good point. Okay. All right, so we have our topics for next month.
Yes.
Hopefully by next month, we can make an official member, associate member.
I'll keep waiting.
Perhaps.
Nothing is fast.
I'm still having fun. It doesn't matter where I sit.
Yeah.
Okay, dates, next meeting is.
Something.
21st. First of May, any conflicts, anybody know of? Okay. All right, the motion to adjourn,
I have. Something figured out.
I
I'm
think.
chaperoning my daughter's eighth grade field trip, so.
Where are you headed?
That sounds better.
I'm the baby. We'll have to see, maybe we'll be back.
Where are you?
Just New York, but.
No.
okay, I've got a
I moved to.
move to adjourn from Jess,
Second.
again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you.